Welcome to the Mental Pulse podcast. Today we have with us a center and a forward from the University of Memphis. He was a third team all conference, a co-MVP for an NIT championship, first team all NIT, two-time all first team D League, first team NBA for the Summer League, and he is an NBA champion with the Miami Heat. Welcome, Earl Barron.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Great
Hey,
introduction. Great introduction. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Glad to share my story and
yeah, glad to have
talk a
you.
little hoops, talk a little life.
Yep, absolutely. So tell us who you are, Earl, your background, and your athletic identity story.
So I'm from Clarksdale, Mississippi, really small town. I grew up in a family of teachers and coaches. My mom was a ninth grade English teacher. My dad was a athletic director at the junior college who also taught basketball. I grew up with a ball in my hand, whether it was being around him or around other players at practice or hanging around at school, waiting on my mom to get done with lesson plans when I was little. I always kept a basketball in my hand, and it was just something that kept me busy, kept me out of trouble. I wasn't a troublemaker, but it just kept me in the gym, busy when I wasn't doing my homework or busy with school stuff.
Okay. So let's talk about from the athletic identity part in regards to your story. So when did you start playing basketball or any other sport, and how did you matriculate on?
I guess back in the day, sports and outside was different because me and my friends, whenever we got home doing after school, we would drop our books and go back outside. Like it was just a thing to do. We would try to find a clique of guys, and if we could go to the park and find enough people to play, we would play, whether we were good or bad. Find somebody's backyard to go to and play 2-on-2 or play 21, whatever it was. And then we had a couple guys in my town who put together some leagues to keep guys busy on the weekend. So a lot of people in my town look forward to Saturdays to play something organized to where we had jerseys. They kept stats and we had records and all that good stuff like it was a real league. I started doing that. Really didn't think anything about it. Just out there having fun. So now that I look back, a lot of my friends championships and the little league tournaments that we won, and I see my picture and I'm like, I don't even remember playing in those leagues. I remember playing, but I don't even remember taking those pictures or holding those trophies. But it was just something that you start to build that teamwork and that camaraderie to where guys in the neighborhood, whatever they were involved in, if they love basketball and they knew you could play and you love to play, you had some kind of bond. And so that kind of just developed, continued to grow as I got older to where everybody in my town knew that I loved the game and whatever part of town I was in, they let me be because of who my family and the fact that I was just the dude that just loved the hoop and was growing at a crazy rate to where I ended up being as tall as I was now.
How tall are you?
I am 7 feet. So I 6'11". I think I was around 6'11" when I graduated. Right
Wow.
around 6'11", 7 feet, but I started going to growth spurt around eighth grade. Went from 6'1" to 6'4", 6'4" to 6'7". Actually grew 3 inches in 3 months my ninth grade year. And then I played every game after that and grew 2 more inches, then 2 more inches. And the next thing you know, I was 6'11", 7 feet.
Man, that-
There's that.
that's crazy. I feel for your mom, the fact that you're outgrowing
Yeah,
clothes like weeds. I
definitely,
mean,
definitely.
it's hard to
Size
keep
went
you in some
from
pants that fit, right?
My shoe size went from, I think I was a 10 at 10, 11 at 11, 12 at 12, 13,
Oh my
13. And I
goodness.
think I stopped at 15. So when I was 15, I was like, man, I don't want my, it's already hard to get shoes at 15, but my shoe size stopped. So yeah, it was a crazy stretch of growing.
Absolutely. So talk about that. Like when you were growing up and you were towering over your teammates and your classmates. Like how was that?
I was growing so fast to where I didn't even think about it. Just like to this day, I don't think I'm tall until I see somebody my height. And I look at him and I'm like, damn, he's tall. And then I realize he's only 6'9" or 6'10". I think, like I said, when I was ninth grade, I went out of town and I was gone for 3 months. And in those 3 months, I grew 3 inches and I came back a week before school started. So that was my first time seeing a lot of my friends that I hadn't seen all summer, and they were all in awe and shock. And I'm just like, why are y'all all tripping about? And then when I got measured for our physicals for basketball, the doctor said, hey, you grew 3 inches in 3 months. And I was like, really? And so to this day, I just feel like I'm a normal person. I get all the stares and the oohs and ahs, but to me, I'm just a few inches taller than an average person.
Yeah, we have a 4-year-old son, and I think he's pretty tall for his age. He's about, I don't know, he's over 4 foot, right?
Yeah,
And so we think he's gonna be tall. My husband is about 6'2", 6'3", and I think we think he's
yeah,
gonna be taller than him. But man, I'm not ready because I feel like I'm buying new clothes and new shoes almost every three
yeah,
months.
yeah.
So it's
Me
pretty
too.
expensive.
Me too. My son's 7 and he's 4 inches from 5 feet.
Oh
So,
wow.
so
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So you play basketball. Did you play any other sports growing up?
I played basically everything growing up, but organized. I played tennis in high school, 11th and 12th grade. I ran cross country for a couple of years. Went out for baseball. I played baseball up until I was 14, and then I went out when I was in high school, but didn't make the team. Played football here and there, but never organized. Just not an outside, standing in the heat with all that stuff on. I'm like, I'm cool on that. Even though I did play tennis, and tennis is a lot of running and outdoors, but it's an individualized sport to where you're responsible. You can't, there's no blaming, there's no point fingers. It's all you. Like it's mano and mano unless you're playing mixed doubles or boys doubles, whatever.
Yeah. No, so how did you come to the realization that you wanted to focus on basketball and go to college and play?
I would say around my senior year in high school, I started getting a whole bunch of letters from different schools. But being somebody from a small town, me and my friends were saying we were all going to go to the same school. And those schools were basically in-state schools, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Southern Miss. And I was getting scholarships from all of those schools. So I ended up basically saying that I was going to go to either Ole Miss or Mississippi State because I went to all their basketball camps, followed their teams, knew their coaches, went to their campus for several years. And then basically I said I was going to be a computer engineer because that's
Okay.
what everybody was going to major in and go to Mississippi State. They had a great engineering program. But after signing with Memphis, I quickly realized that it was going to be really hard to balance taking, and I was taking a lot of AP stuff too.
Yeah.
I'm taking AP Trig and Calculus 3 and stuff as a freshman, and they like curving the grade, and I still couldn't pass. So I was like, you know what, I may need to change my major if because I didn't want to be bogged down with a whole bunch of work, which is cool. I mean, I was able to do it in high school, but college is it's basically a 9 to 5 as a student athlete. I was just trying to make sure I found the right balance, had a good major that I could fall back on if basketball didn't work out. But fortunate enough for me, I was able to make a good career out of
Absolutely. Yeah, I
it.
mean, going back to what you said about computer engineering. So I did computer science in college. I played at Georgia State, and I've always wanted to be an engineer since I was like in the fourth grade. And so, which is one of the reasons I decided to go to Georgia State. I wanted to go to Georgia Tech just because they had engineering, but because Georgia State didn't have engineering, they had computer science. That's the most they had. And as a student athlete, as you were stating, it's 9 to 5. And as I was a freshman in college and things just weren't going, I wasn't getting the playing time I wanted. Going to my sophomore year, it wasn't happening either. And I guess going to that point that you made about 9 to 5 and how you have to figure out what you're going to put your time in. Right? And I
Yeah,
guess I chose mentally, I'm going to put my time in my grades because
yeah,
it just wasn't happening from a basketball standpoint. I wasn't getting all I desired there. So I said, I'm putting my time and effort in my schooling because I do want to be prepared once that time comes to transition to the real world. But you do have to make that choice. And just going back to Dawn Staley, she just won the national championship, and kudos to South Carolina with 138-0 all season, and the fact that they were able to beat Caitlin Clark was is pretty phenomenal. But they have a recruit that she just got to sign Joyce Edwards, and they created that engineering program for them, for her. And so the fact that to have a college athlete that's going to be top tier and also have the athlete that's spending a lot of time in their books, definitely have to prioritize your time because it's tough being able to balance both and to stay on top of both from an athletic standpoint and an academic standpoint. So talk about that a little bit of how you made that decision to what did you decide to major in? Business management. And was that time consuming or were you able to uh, just
No, it became natural. I think my first couple classes, some of the statistic stuff I had trouble with, but the actual management classes, the law classes, the business law and stuff like that, after I sat down and just applied myself, a lot of that stuff just became they connected with each other. And strategic management and uh, I can't think of all the other classes, but they all just became natural. And I made sure I put the time in. I studied. I used my tutors. I went to study hall. I read. I went to every class. I used to be like a perfect attendance type person
that's
growing up.
good.
So it became something that I leaned on. I'm not missing school. I don't care how I feel. I'm gonna go to class. I don't care what. So even in college, like we can stay out and party all night. I'm like, man, I'm getting up and going to class. Even if I fall asleep, I'm gonna be in class. I took pride in that, and it paid off. I'll never forget one time we played Tennessee. I had a paper due. I had an 8 o'clock class. I stayed up till man, I might have stayed up till 5:30. Us left at 6 to go to the airport. And as soon as we landed, I went to the computer lab to finish my paper and walked into the class at 8 o'clock on the dot, 7:59, zero sleep. And finished my paper and turned it in. And she was lecturing and I was dying. I was in the chair just like, she knew me, so she respected me. And she was just like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Man, I stayed up all night finishing your paper." And she said, "You look horrible." She said, "You know what?" She said, "Because you come to all my classes." And she said, "You show up." And she said, "I've never seen you this time." She gave me a pass and she said, "You can go." She said, "I want you to go to the dorm and get you some sleep." And I was just like, "What?"
Mhm.
It's, that's just how I kind of approach things. I didn't want my teachers looking at me like I was some kind of liability, somebody that's going to cause problems that you always got to search for, that the coach is going to be asking questions about. You can ask Red. I got to the point where the coaches not stopped checking my classes. They were like, "Well, we're not even wasting our time because we know he's going to be there."
Right.
And can say that for a lot of guys on our team. I was one of those guys who just grew up. Like I said, my mom taught English for 30 some years. She taught me, she taught my sister, she taught all my friends. So I grew up with education being key as a child growing up. So I
Yeah,
kind of
kudos to
made that
mom.
a
Kudos to
foundation
mom.
in college. Yeah.
Yeah, kudos to mom for sure. And that's important to have that relationship with your teachers because especially being a student athlete, you're gonna need some help and you're gonna need some assistance along the way. And so for them to be able to help you out in those times of need, and that's very important. So definitely making sure you're attending those office hours and stay in communication with your teachers. And that's really important. So going back to your basketball, so you went to University of Memphis. So how did you settle on University of Memphis to play basketball in college?
Everything happens for a reason type story. Like I said, I waited to the last minute to sign Mississippi State. I used up all their scholarships. Ole Miss used all their scholarships. Mississippi State signed the number one player in the country. Then they signed another center who was like top five in the state. And they both were over 6'10". So I was like, man, I was 175, 180, super skinny, 6'11", string bean. I was like, I'm not trying to go into Mississippi State battling with these guys where I'm probably not going to play or I have to redshirt. And so my mom was like, look, you're going to school to get an education. You're not just going to school just to play ball. And I wanted to go somewhere where I could play. I knew I could play, but just depend on the right situation. So long story short, Memphis ended up getting contacted by one of the coaches at Mississippi State who said, hey, go down to Clarksville. They've got a guy that's 6'10", 6'11". And they came down and I just so happened to be playing tennis at the time. So they watched me practice. And the coach even told me, he said he was sitting in the stands. What are we wasting our time here for? This kid don't want to play basketball. He's here playing tennis. We were playing pickup after that. So we ended up playing tennis. They followed me out to the junior college and we played pickup. Me and some of the high school kids played against some of the college guys. And we were out there just throwing lobs, shooting, dunking. having a good time, just hooping. And at that time, I was in tip-top shape, so nobody out there was going to outrun me on the floor, beat me to any loose balls. So after watching me play, they were just like, "It's pretty good." They ended up offering me a scholarship. I came down to Memphis and checked it out, and I was like, 45-minute drive, 50-minute drive. It's hop, skipping, and jumps actually closer than any Mississippi school. There at the time, they took me out. We talked. Memphis has a big following as far as basketball goes, so it's a huge basketball city. Every game came on TV. Played at the Pyramid. Nobody remembers the Pyramid. That's like a basketball mecca at the time, to where you have a good game in the Pyramid. It's super loud. Any good team coming to Pyramid, packed. It's loud. It's just the excitement. It gives you chills every time. And I was just like, looks like I'm going to Memphis. So full scholarship, signed. The rest is history.
Yeah, that's awesome. The fact that you was able to do that, the down selection process on where to play at with what happened with Mississippi State and who they assigned, and just realizing that you want to be able to go somewhere that you can get some playing time. That's huge
Mhm.
because a lot of times these days we get so stuck on, a lot of kids get stuck on the name of the school and not really focus on, hey, I need to just go somewhere I'm a play and I'm valued and
Yeah,
I'm wanted.
yeah.
And so, can you speak on that? Like, why are
Um,
people so stuck on that in that phase?
Sometimes it's about the surrounding. When you surround yourself with the wrong people, you have a different viewpoint on things in life, especially sports. And myself, it was just like I wasn't an All American. I wasn't nobody that had all these accolades. I just knew I could hoop. Like I held my own against some of the best players in the country at times. And it's just like, okay, how can I get to where I can do that on a regular basis? So, when I got to Memphis, I knew I was small, but there were things that I could do that other people couldn't do that were, faster and stronger than me. Not faster and stronger than me, but just stronger and could jump higher than me. So I just tried to learn the game as much as possible to find out how the game could be easier, because a lot of times people rely more on their athletic ability or shooting ability or ball handling to do all of the work for them. And a lot of times in basketball, it can be where you're standing, where you set your screen, how you set your screen, who you're up against. If somebody that can dunk, like making sure you keep a body on him at all times so he can't get off the ground. Like it's little things that you can do to make the game easier. I just applied everything, ate a lot, ate way too much sometimes, but I started to put on weight, got stronger, I got faster. The game just became easier. There would be times where I would dominate games. There'll be times where I go out there and look like I didn't know how to play the game, like I had just learned. But through it all, deep down, I knew I could play. You always think about the good and try not to think too much about the bad. By the time I graduated, I look back and man, I had a whole bunch of double doubles to where, damn, why can't I do that every night? You average 9 and 6, and people look back and think that, he can't hoop. It's yeah. I also had 20 and 12 a couple games, or 16 and 13. I had a lot of double doubles, but it was a lot of ups and downs. So it was definitely a roller coaster. It was a real roller coaster for me. A lot of highs, a lot of lows. NIT championships, and then there were games where I couldn't make a bucket, miss layups, lose to some trash teams, but also shine in the garden to where I didn't miss a shot in the first half in front of all kind of the stars, all the people that were there to watch the NIT championship. It's just a fun time.
Right. So those highs and lows, like, how did you get through those mentally? Like, how did you overcome those?
Try not to let you're not gonna make every shot. You're not gonna ever get every rebound. But the one thing you can do is play hard. You try not to. You get to the point if you miss a shot, you have a turnover. You have to have short-term memory, and you have to just hustle back every time. You got to have short-term memory, because if you focus on the mistakes and the errors and the missed shots and the turnovers and the fouls, your mind will just be bogged down with 6, 7, 8 different things. I just try to get to the point where it's just next play, next play, next play. Forget about it. Nothing you can do about that now. That ref called a foul. Maybe you fouled him. Maybe you did. That was a terrible shot. You let somebody 6'3" block your shot. Guess what? Next time you do something different. But you can't do anything about it now. It's a lot of short-term memory, a lot of move on. I learned that if I had a bad game, try not to let it affect if I was dating someone at the time, to take my anger out on the game. I don't feel like talking about it. Leave me alone. No. I think KG said it one time. He's like, man, he used to be like that, and he got to the point where he's like, the game stays on the court. He said, you don't let it affect your family, your friends, your classmates, your teammates. It is what it is. The game's over with. Now, don't let that affect what happens outside, off the court. So I just tried to carry that mentality with me throughout my career, especially after college.
Definitely turning the page quickly because the game goes so fast. It's not like
Mhm.
football where it's slow, you have time to really think about some things, but it is pretty fast and you have to just be careful because I know when I played collegiately, and that was one of the things that I struggled with. I had a short leash from the coach where, if I made a mistake, you get yanked and then you turn to the fact of you start overthinking. And then when you start overthinking, you start making more mistakes. And being able to turn the page quickly and move on to the next play, like you stated, and not to get in the habit of overthinking and just being able to just play the game loosely. So you're in Memphis and you decide to go professional, right? So your next step was the D League.
My next step, I think I ended up going to Portsmouth. So Portsmouth is like the next thing underneath going to like the main NBA camp in Chicago. So I
Okay.
didn't get invited to that. I did one workout for the Knicks right before the draft. It was good, but I figured they were going to draft this guy. I think he's 7'6". So they ended up drafting him. And yeah, went to training camp and then I went to Turkey. Went to Turkey for 6, 7 months. Got hurt, came back, and went to Huntsville, Alabama to play for the Huntsville Flight for maybe 2 months. I think I left it was towards the end of the season. And I got there, and luckily when I got there, one of the guys was, I think he was leaving to go back up north, I think to Ohio for some child support stuff. And so in the D League back in the day, they had 10 players, two at each position. So he was the center. He was gone. The coach was like, hey, you're going to play. And so I'm a team player. I play hard. I do a little bit of everything. And my teammates took a liking to me. Look, man, you can shoot. This is how we're gonna help you. Or you can do this. This is and so we gelled pretty quickly. We hung out off the court, built some relationships. So at the end of the season, I was like, hey, I'm gonna do whatever I need to do in the summertime to try to give myself a shot in the NBA. Nothing came through. Talked to my agent. I say, man, I don't mind going back to Huntsville, giving it another try, giving it a full season. I'm in shape now. I'm ready to go. So I went back to Huntsville. Some of the other guys came back, and we were one of the top teams in the D League that year. And I had some pretty good games. Ended up going to the Philippines, and I got invited to summer league. And so that's how the whole transition from being taking care of my body, getting in shape, going back to Huntsville, just basically trying to ball out every night, uh, showcase, had some good games, got invited to summer league, went to the Philippines, balled out in the Philippines, got in better shape, and then left the Philippines, came back to the States right before summer league. Then went to summer league in tip top shape and balled out at summer league. Left summer league, went straight to Miami, basically started training there, the same thing. I never took my foot off the gas. Miami, they don't play around. So you're running, you're lifting weights, you're doing ball handling every day. You're doing a lot of shooting. You're playing 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4. You're doing pick and roll drills. You're doing post drills. You're doing every kind of drill you can think of. We were doing it for hours a day to the point where I was just ready to hoop. I don't care where I went. I don't care if it was one-on-ones with whoever, 2-on-2s, 5-on-5. I was just in hoop mode, and that kind of led all the way up to training camp. And they were like, "Hey, you've earned your spot," and you end up being part of a championship team. So it was a crazy, wild ride. Put the work in, you learn from people around you. Never know.
Well, so let's talk about that work. And we're gonna go back to the NBA championship with the Miami Heat, but let's talk about that work. What work did you put in? Like, what did you do? Give us an example of what your regimen was.
Man, just the running, just the cardio, just the weightlifting, the stretching, the jumping rope, the taking care of your body, the diet, the yoga, getting your rest. I like to party, whatever I like to drink, but it's also a time where it's okay, you're gonna have to sacrifice. Okay, you look at your watch, it's 2:30, like, man, I got yoga at 6. You stay and party for another hour, you still gotta get up. I was that kind of guy that was like, you know what? I was like, you know what? Tomorrow, Friday, I get up and hoop. I can sleep in tomorrow night. And so I would sacrifice and say, you know what, I get it in. I'm not gonna really do nothing Saturday morning. I sacrifice this night, have fun with my friends, whatever. Get up early, yoga. I might be tired, but I'm getting it in. And I did that to a point, whether it was ball handling, shooting, 5-on-5, pickup. Somebody say, man, you want to come to the gym and shoot? I ain't got nothing else to do. I didn't have kids. I wasn't married. Everything was just focused on the career. So I learned after that first year in Miami how to be a professional, how to take care of your body. They did weight and body fat every Monday. If I came in 2 pounds overweight, they knew it wasn't water weight because you're doing all this sweating. So he's like, okay, what have you been eating? I was like, oh, I just had pizza this night. I had some wings. I had McDonald's the other night. And he's like, nah. And so I got to the point where I cut fast food out, cut all the carbs out. I would try to eat, drink more water, alcohol, avoid all the sugar. I'm a drink, you still can have fun. Try to avoid all the sugar and eat right, get my rest. I hit the sauna, I hit the steam room, I ride the bikes. I would run on the treadmill on games where I didn't play, do sprints. And it was just a lot of stuff that when you work out, like really working out, not going in there and doing 2, 3 exercises. Well, I'm gonna lift weights today. Like, no, I'm going in there for at least an hour and a half, and I'm getting it in to the point where the next day I might not be able to walk. And so it's just a matter of, and then you learn what works for you. Everything doesn't work for the same people, but I learned what worked for me, how my body reacted to certain things I did, and I was able to try to do that every summer. Just maybe add a few things, maybe not do some things to a certain level, but for the most part, I was pretty consistent at what I did and it had a pretty good career without any major injuries.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So when you say you're eating, that's more like grilled chicken with veggies, eating your fruits.
Smoothies, yeah,
Okay.
making a lot of smoothies, a lot of grilled foods, not a lot of fried foods. I got into the granolas and the yogurts. And then even when I went out, I would just order. I'm a picky eater, so I would get a lot of salads, steamed broccoli, steamed carrots. Didn't really stray too much off the veggie train, so I would keep it pretty simple. Eat my soul food if somebody cooked it here and there, but for the most part, I keep it clean because I knew where I weighed at my worst in my career. When I was hurt and I couldn't do anything, I knew where I was weight wise. I knew where I was at the peak of my career too. So anytime I would get on the scale and I would look at the scale, I'd be like, basically, you bullshit. Like you need to get it together. You bullshit. So I would get it together and get myself back on the right track. Make sure I ate right and did my sprints, my bike rides. Even if it's waking up in the morning, running a couple miles. Like sometimes you got to do things that set yourself apart from other people. Like you might not feel like it, but you need to do something. And a lot of times I would get up, run a mile, jump rope, do push-ups, do squats, take a shower.
Wow. So talking about just eating right and the fact that they weighed you and measured you almost every week, right? Zion Williamson, prior to this season, there's been tons of talk about him not being in shape, him not actually eating right, and he had gained all this weight. Is this a league wide thing that they measure and they make sure you're eating the right thing, or
No, I don't know if you hear it. You probably heard it a lot or you see it. They actually sent a jersey to what heat culture. A lot of times when they talk about the Miami Heat, you hear the phrase heat culture, but their culture is very professional. It's very business oriented to where there are points where we couldn't wear, even though the NBA had a dress code, we had our own dress code to where, our jeans couldn't be ripped up. We had to dress a certain kind of way. We didn't have chips and cookies on the plane. Like if the plane left at a certain time, it was leaving, they didn't care who you were. You had to show up to training camp at the proper weight. And I tell people like you got nothing against people with different body sizes, but you'll never see a pudgy Miami Heat player. You'll never see a pudgy Miami Heat player because there are standards and requirements. You got to show up a certain way. And if you're not a certain way by the time training camp comes, you can't touch the floor until you get right. That kind of set the bar high for me as far as, and so I saw how I was when I played. Like I think I was like 240, 245, but Never got tired. I was strong. I didn't get really hurt. I could play with anybody, anywhere, anytime, and just it was just set the bar high as being a professional, where you should be, how to take care of your body, how to eat, what not to eat, and that's all part of that Heat culture. So if you ever listening to or watching the game, I'm pretty sure you'll see it logo, you hear the phrase, you hear players talk about it in podcasts all the time, and it's a real thing to this day. Like they have some of the hardest workouts. And a lot of guys who were coming out of college and working out for NBA teams, they didn't want to go to Miami because their practice for the college players, the workouts that they had were the toughest in the league, the toughest in the NBA. That kind of deterred a lot of guys. Like, no, I don't want to go to Miami. But you got South Beach. You got a lot of things that kind of lure people there, but you also have hard practices. We're practicing 2.5 hours. We practice a couple of days without touching the ball, straight defense. Some people can't deal with that kind of stuff. They've won over and over, year after year, regardless of big three, no big three. Like they just have that culture that they've instilled in their players year after year.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I can definitely agree with that. Definitely agree with that. So going into your days with the Miami Heat, so who was your teammates on that championship team?
So Shaquille O'Neal, just gonna visualize in the locker room. So Shaquille O'Neal, Udonis Haslem, Shannon Anderson, Antoine Walker, Jason Williams, Dwayne Wade, Wayne Sylvian. If I said Jason Williams, White Chocolate already, James Posey, Darrell Wright, Michael Dozier, uh, Big Zoe, Lonzo Mourning. Am I missing somebody? Gary Payton, Jason Williams, Gary Payton, Dwayne Wade, Shannon Anderson, James Posey, Antoine Walker, Darrell Wright, Wayne Simeon, Michael Dozier, Alonzo Mourning, Shaq, and Jason Capono. I know I was
Okay.
missing somebody.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Just to
So
be in that group of people, that's some Hall of Famers in there. That's just some pretty high, top-notch people. So, like, how was it being in the midst and working beside Alonzo Mourning and working beside Shaq and working beside all the other big men?
I tell people all the time, I didn't even think about it. It happened so fast to where they're just my teammates. You look around and you're sitting at the table having dinner laughing, or you're sitting in the locker room and you got Shaq on one side and Gary Payton on the other side. They just talking trash, and you just they just the guy. You don't really get caught up in it. But after the fact that I look back, I'll go home and I look at a poster or look at a picture or something. I'm like, man, that's crazy. Like these dudes are real. They were at the top of the game. Like they were elite. They were Hall of Famers. They were All Stars. They were McDonald's All Americans. They were Mr. Basketball. They were Player of the Years. They were MVPs. They were all like they were everything that you can think of. And I was able to share the court with them, share the locker room with them, have dinner, sit down, go to parties, hang out with their families, and win a championship. So those times and those years, pretty pretty epic. Some of the stories and the times and the laughs and the good times and the bad times was some stuff for the ages.
Hey, that's what's up. That's something you can tell your kids about, and then they can tell their kids. Like everybody doesn't get the opportunity, and that's obviously a blessing that the opportunity came your way, and you were ready for it. You were ready for it. You're in tip-top shape. And
Yeah,
just talk about going into that season. Is there anything in particular that you did that allowed you or that put you over the top in order to make that team?
just listen. I got fortunate enough to, when Summer League came about in the D League, there was this thing that everyone talked about. Hey, if you get invited to Summer League, you're probably not going to play. And you get invited, don't get excited. You're only going to get a few minutes because Summer League is basically for their draftees and their main guys and guys that didn't play much the year before. They give them all the minutes. So you're basically just going to be holding a spot. So I didn't really have too many expectations when I got to training camp. I had a couple guys get injured. So both of them were centers. So one of them knee inflamed, one of them hyperextended his knee in the first day and a half of practice. So going towards the start of the ending of training camp, going into summer league when it was about to start, the coach was like, "Hey, you're gonna have to start. Like we might start you at the five. They had Wayne Simeon, who's mainly a power forward, could play a little center, and then they had Darrell Wright, who was like a 2-3,
Mhm.
and they had Quintel Woods as well. He's from Memphis, and he was like a 3-3. He could play like a 2-3-4. Really talented guy. So they had those three guys, and then they were like, "Hey, we're gonna throw you in the mix." So I ended up starting at the five, and I played probably 40 minutes a game. Like I rarely left the court unless I got in foul trouble. And I think the first game, I think I'll never forget, I had 12 and 6. And I passed up a bunch of shots. Like I can shoot from my size. Like when I went on my growth spurt, that's one thing that never stopped. I'm not the highest jumper in the world, but I can shoot and I play the game right and I play game hard. So coach was like, "You're open, you passing up shots, shoot the ball. I trust you. You made shots all camp. You got to tell me twice." Next game I went out and I think I had 26 and 14 or something crazy. Like I
Wow.
just they kept leaving me open. I was setting good screens and they didn't make the right adjustment. It was just knocked down, just wide open. They was just like, keep shooting, just make. And so I had a couple games like that. I didn't really, I'm just having fun. I'm just playing the game hard, and it was just coming naturally. And so my teammates, towards the end of the summer league, they was like, "Man, they better sign you. They better sign." I'm like, "You think so?" I said, "Man, you killing, man. You averaging this and that." And I'm just like, "Man, I'm just playing hard, man. I don't see me no different than anybody else." And then I got approached by the GM at after one of the last games. And he was like, "Man, you've been doing a great job out here. And I think we're gonna talk to your agent. We want to invite you to training camp." And I was like, "Cool, cool." I called my family. I was like, "Man, I just got invited to the training camp." And prior to that, that's when I got invite to go to summer, go to the Philippines. I went to the Philippines for 2 months, went out there, and I think that kind of helped elevate things because I had the green light. If you don't know about the Philippines, it's a fast break league, and if you're the only American on the team, they expect you to do everything. So
Oh, wow.
there were games where I had 40, 25, and 9. Just you putting up Luka Doncic type numbers. You putting up Jokic type numbers over there when that league ended, and you never coming off the court unless you take yourself out the game or you're in foul trouble. But other than that, they expect you to play every single minute. And so I was in, like I said, I was in shape, and they would sub me out. I might take a minute break. I'm like, "Oh, I'm good. I got my water, wipe my sweat. I'm ready to go back on the court." And sometimes I'd be like, "No, I'm good. I don't need to come. I'm not tired. Leave me alone." And
So were you a shoe-in once you came from the Philippines to go get introduced to or get invited to the training camp for the Miami Heat? Was it like a shoe-in or did you have to?
no, out there were about 7 people that they brought in for
Oh,
training camp. So we got pretty close. We worked out every day, and we knew what it was. Like they're probably going to keep 2 or 3 of us. So we look around like, hey, somebody ain't gonna be here tomorrow. Somebody ain't gonna be here next week. Somebody not gonna be here next month. And so the closer we got to training camp, people start to weed out. And so it was just like 3 or 4 people, and it was just 2 or 3 people. And then the next thing you know, it was just a couple of us in a fight for 1 or 2 spots. And it got to the point where I was like pretty confident. Man, I don't see a reason why they wouldn't keep me. I was doing everything they're saying. I'm just showing up every day, playing good, practicing good. When the vets started coming in, we were going out there and I'm still doing it, being in the right spot, making shots, rotating, getting rebounds. It was just like, man, let's see. So everything worked out, man. It was a great journey to make it to that point. My journey is not the traditional one. I didn't get drafted. I won a lottery pick. I won second round. Wasn't nothing crazy like that. I had to grind my way through the D League, 14-hour bus rides, 18-hour bus rides, breaking down, small hotels, eating, stopping to get fast food. So you have the highs and the lows of things like that, as opposed to you get the NBA, you're staying at the Intercontinentals, Four Seasons, the nicest of the nicest, the Mandarin Orientals, you name it. We're staying there. And then you're flying first class. You're eating at the best restaurants. You got some of the best food. You got some of the best trainers. You doing push-ups and squats. You might find a weight room. It's just I was a part of the lows. I was a part of the highs. I was a part of getting $900 every 2 weeks. But I love the game. I love the game. I sacrificed. I appreciated the coaches, the trainers, my teammates. And When you got to the league, you be like, man, you hear guys complain about room service. I'm like, man, you have no clue. Like, you complain about having this big old suite. You got room service. You got food that the team gives you. I played where I had a roommate, and we were debating if we were gonna have Cracker Barrel or Applebee's or Denny's. Like, that was our meal. And then here you are, got these top notch meals in the NBA. Like I said, it was the best of both worlds. I had the best of both worlds.
Yeah, so basically my thought pertaining to your career, and we'll talk about what happened after the NBA championship, but I would say if stay ready so you don't have to get ready was a person, that would be you because you stayed ready for the Huntsville flight and you stayed ready when you went before you went to the Philippines when you were working out. And so you were ready, and that's how you got the invitation to go to the training camp for the Miami Heat. So what
Yeah,
happened after the championship? What did you do after that?
party. We partied for probably one straight. No, no joke. Probably partied every night, every other day. I think
Gotcha.
I didn't leave to go back home for a while, but my family and a couple organizations wanted to do stuff for me. My school wanted to do something for me, wanted to acknowledge me for winning the NBA championship. And I learned that you're a brand once you begin the league. It's like you don't want to tarnish your brand. So I was like, I want to try to make sure I keep my name out of any kind of legal issues, any kind of trouble, any kind of things where, man, I don't want a team to be like, man, Earl Barron that. I just play hard, show up, and sometimes show out.
Right.
Just try to
Absolutely.
make sure, like you said, be prepared. If I stay ready, I don't have to get ready. And that's another reason why it's okay. I used to tell my agent, get me in the door. Like, all you got to do is get me in the door. I'm going to be ready. Don't try to do more than you have to. I said, I'll make the team if it's the right time in the right place. But don't try to don't negotiate too much or say, oh, we want this, that, and the other. Hey, man, I was fortunate enough to take the route to where I just appreciate everything.
So after you finished your playing days, how did you transition to the real world? How was that?
Man, it's a dark, tough time when you hear about it as far as the NBA goes. I know probably for all athletes, but I know for the NBA, it's just most guys, they play basketball their entire lives. They eat, sleep, drink basketball. They play AAU. I didn't play AAU like that, but I played a lot of these guys. It's their life. When that comes to an end, it's okay, what now? Your resume for 13, 12, 13, 14 years is basketball. There's no companies, there's no learning, there's no business, there's no things of that nature to showcase to anyone. So it's a tough, basically start from scratch type thing to where you basically got to get it together and figure out quick. But honestly, I got lucky the first year. I got a volunteer job with the D League coaching. But after that, I spent like a year where I didn't work. So I was just going to different schools, trying to talk to people, trying to figure things out. Because I wanted to stick around the game. I didn't want to really get into corporate America. I didn't want to wake up in the morning, get coffee, drive into the office. I want to get in the gym. I want to smell the sneakers. I want to hear the squeak. I want to smell the popcorn. I want to watch the game. I want to train. I want to be around the fellas. But that changed really quick. Right now, I'm working at a financial Northwestern Mutual, mainly insurance, but now they're like a financial planning company. And so it kind of makes me lean on the fact that I'm learning. So trying to, I guess it's my way of giving back. So everything happens for a reason because had I known what I know now at age 21, I would have done a whole bunch of different things once I started playing basketball to put myself in a better position than I am now to where having insurance, having other things outside of what I was doing with the NBA, as far as in the pensions and the 401ks, like understanding money and taxes are vital.
All right, Earl. So you said there was a dark time. You experienced a dark time in your transition after playing basketball to the real world. Can you expound on that?
Yeah, it's what they say it is. You hear a lot of guys talk about, especially guys that play for a long time, when their career's done and they're trying to make that transition. It's I don't know if it's a reflection or if you don't really have anything set up to where you start preparing for life after basketball, you find yourself in a place of, I guess you can call it a little bit of confusion, to where I guess for a lot of guys, like for myself, when I stopped, I still could play. Like I still probably could have played another 4 years, 4 or 5 years, maybe more. But having a child, I felt like it was more important to focus on being around him if he couldn't come to where I was at, but making sure that I was there for him because those young years, they only come around one time. So, um, yeah, so it was a space of wanting to be around the game, trying to find different coaching jobs, playing pickup, still having that love for the game, playing pickup here and there, but not necessarily being ready to fully transition from doing something you love, playing basketball, working out, running, traveling, staying in nice hotels, regardless if it was the D League or just being around the team, being around the fellas. That's a different kind of fellowship. And if you don't play, it's hard to understand like how you like being around guys 24/7. It's just a matter of sitting down and okay, what is it that I really want to do now? What is it that I can put all of my time in, like I put all of my time in, like a 9 to 5, as far as waking up, like basketball, waking up at 6:30, doing yoga, doing all the different things, stretching, doing cardio, going to the track, doing sprints, running the bleachers. You fall in love with the process of getting to that point to where you you basically show up in October ready to go. So the whole process with the summer, it pays its dividends in October. And when that's done, it's just like, okay, you find yourself not motivated to work out. You find yourself in a space of depressed, have anxiety, you just stressed out about things that when you playing, you're just thankful to wake up and be able to go do something that you know down the road in October. I might have a chance to make a team or be back in the NBA or go overseas or sign a nice contract. So it was a very and I heard a lot about it when I was in the NBA about that dark space and guys getting to that point. And they always say, okay, what are you going to do after basketball? What are you going to do after basketball? You always hear it and you're like, I'm nowhere near done playing. So that's something that was in the back of my mind. But at the time, the woman that I was married to wasn't extrovert. She didn't like to be around a lot of people. So when I was gone, it was just like she didn't enjoy sitting in the house, taking care of the home, taking care of my son at the time. But yeah, it was a crazy period, but now different job, different career, different city. I'm adjusting and hopefully this new career gets me back into that space where eventually I can get back around the game. I can reflect on my past, my stories, people that I played with stories who didn't make the right financial decisions, who didn't have a plan. It's one thing to have an advisor because I still have an advisor to this day, but I did not have a plan. So had I had a plan, I would have had something set up to where when I wasn't playing, that I wouldn't be stressed about anything. It's like, okay, I prepared for this. I planned for this. Now the time is here. This is what I want to do. This is what's going to happen. Now I have a window to where I can move and shake and find something new. So that's how that dark place goes. So all you guys out there that play the game, that think you're going to play forever, you're one injury away. You're one bad incident, one fight, one unhappy coach to where you're either blackballed to where nobody wants to sign you to where you go from 28, 29, playing every day. Oh, I'm at the top of my game. So now nobody wants to sign you and you're just sitting there, okay, what's next? So it's a real deal. It's a real thing. So it's very important that you make sure that you don't have all your eggs in one basket and make sure you prepare for life after basketball.
Man, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for providing that wisdom and kind of clarifying what that looked like in regards to that dark space. How did how did you get through it? Were there any resources that you reached out to since you did play in the NBA and did play in the D League and things of that nature? Did you have any reach back to any of those type of resources that
Definitely,
okay.
definitely. And I think the NBA, I will say the NBA is outside of what people see on TV, the NBA is we have a players association. We have guys that really care about each other. They really care about our futures. They really care about our health, our mental state. So there are so many things in place that the NBA provides pre-basketball, during while you're playing, and post-basketball, in retirement, job availability, therapy, counseling, all those different things. They provide outlets to their players because you don't know who's following in your footsteps that you can make a difference for. I would say that whether it was podcasts or just reaching out to different people or sitting down with a former player, it's like, hey man, you remember that dark spot they talked about? How did you deal with it? Of course, all of them like, yeah, I was there. They're all, I don't care who they were. There's that space when you get done with playing basketball. Regardless if you have something set up, you still miss the game. And it's just, man, whether it's a 4-year career, 13-year career like me, or a 20-year career for some of the guys that were around for a long time, there's just space where you're like, man, it came, it went, I had a great time, but now you miss it and you're in that space now where you're like, okay, it's 10 o'clock and I'm not at the gym practicing, or my old team has a game today and I'm not at shoot around. So it's it's cool.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a void and you gotta try to fill the
Very,
void. Yeah.
absolutely.
So basically, would you say that your identity was in basketball? That was who you are? And would you say that it was just hard to transition from that identity into who that new person is, per se?
I would say that my story, I basically started off, I'm a teacher's son. So I was I guess you can call me a nerd. I was a straight A student. I was in all of the chess clubs, youth leadership, Mu Alpha Theta, Honor Society. I was just active in everything school wise, AP classes. I was just on top of everything. And later on, towards the end of my senior year, I started making basketball more of a priority. Not saying that I put school in the background, but basketball became something where it's okay, I have an opportunity to be really good. So I need to start lifting weights. I need to start going to the track and running. I need to start playing pickup more with older guys and start learning from these guys who played D1 for 3, 4 years, guys who've made it professionally, guys who've been to training camp. So listening and learning. So I wouldn't say I necessarily became, that was my face, but I was always smart on the court. Make sure I remember I knew every position. So a lot of times if somebody had to go to the bathroom or something, I could say, "Oh, I'll run the two real quick." You do the two, yeah, I know it. So that means a lot to a lot of coaches because it's okay. Some guys barely know their own position, but when you can learn multiple positions, it says a lot about your character, a lot about you, how smart you are, how much you can remember. Because you got to remember, me, I guess I can call myself a journeyman. I would go to a team and sign a 10-day on Friday evening, and we have a game Saturday at 1 or Saturday at 5. I had to basically learn the playbook, and they would give me the playbook. We would go through the plays, and I had to learn the plays ASAP, where you have guys that's been there for weeks and months that are still trying to, they might know it, or some of them are still trying to figure it out. And it's like me, I don't have that leash. I have to learn it ASAP because if they go in there and say, hey, we're running two up or we're running floppy out, I have to know that play because I can't afford to screw up the play, mess up because I'm only there for 10 days. I have to showcase my skills, showcase my ability to adjust to the team, be a team player, know the plays, go out there and give it my 100, give it my all, give it 100% and still know the playbook. Yeah, I just tried to be smart, learn as much as I could, and be a good teammate wherever I went.
Okay. Okay, so going back to the 10-day, pulling that thread. So what is it like being on a 10-day contract and is there much pressure? Explain like what that
Um,
like.
so I guess there is a little pressure because it's not like they're saying we're going to sign you for the rest of the year, or we're going to sign you straight out of the D League or straight off the street. We know what you're capable of. We trust you. We know you're in shape because you have to do workouts a lot of the time. But most 10 days they sign you from the minor league. So they're watching you all year. So a lot of times you're already in great shape. You're already been putting up numbers, but now you're coming in a different role. You're coming into a team to where you're either playing a backup or you're playing a five on a team with Phoenix. I signed a 10-day and they had Steve Nash, they had Akeem Ward, they had who was playing it. Goran Dragic was on that team, I think, at the time, but they had some stars, and I was just filling in for an injured guy. And my main thing was pick and pop, rebound. So Steve Nash basically said, look, stop passing up shots. I know they brought you in here because you're a big man that can shoot. He said, if I swing the ball and you're open, you shoot. He said, don't pass up any more shots. But after that, okay, I just got the green light from Steve Nash. So
Absolutely.
I'm just gonna go out here and play, not worry about points, take charges, hustle, rebound, and if I'm open, I'll shoot. Like 10 days are not the time for you to try to create your shots and show coaches, oh, I got it in and out crawls. I got to step back. I'm gonna show you a little something I've been working on in the summer. No, that's not why they brought you in there. They have guys that can do that. Uh, 10 days are fun because if you showcase that you can play, you have a couple good games, they bring you on to the second 10 day. You do well in that second 10 day, and especially if the team is winning. Depends on the teams you go to, the time of year. And they say, hey, now they got to make a decision. We're either going to sign you for the rest of the season or we're going to have to let you go. And in a lot of instances, other teams are watching to where they might release you. And then within a couple of days, maybe the next day, you get a phone call. Agent's like, hey, you just left Phoenix, but New York wants you to come in for a 10-day. So you're always being watched. You're always showcasing your skills and your talent. Like I said, that saying, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, is definitely a major key when it comes to guys that are not quite NBA studs,
Hmm.
but are guys who are tweeners between the D League and the NBA, or the NBA and the D League. You're like back and forth. You could be there, you could stay there, but at the same time, you could find yourself in the D League for a number of years. You're only a few skills or a few things that you need to sharpen up to be on that NBA level for a permanent amount of time.
Gotcha, gotcha. That has been interesting going from one team to the next with these short contracts, 10-day contracts. But so after you left the Miami Heat, I think your career went where it went from place to place, team to team. So
Yeah.
talk about that matriculation, that journey from after the Miami Heat.
Spending 3 years in a place, it becomes home. Even spending a year somewhere, it becomes home. So I did 3 years in Miami, won a championship my first year. Second year, made the playoffs. I think we got put out the third round. In the third year, basically, we had a bunch of trades. So we went from, in a 3 year span, I went from on top of the world. Everybody knew who we were, partying in every city, winning. I think we were first in our division, first in the Eastern Conference. In 2 years to that third year, we had a bunch of 10-day guys. We were the team that had all the D League guys. We had a bunch of 10-day guys, and we were just out there. We had all played against each other. So it was cool, but it was tough because we had a bad record. The media was bashing us. They call us the D League All Stars. We didn't care. All of the guys, we were talented, a bunch of talented, cool guys that we had. A lot of us had came out the same year. A lot of us had played against each other in the D League overseas. So all of us are, some guys' goal is like, hey, I just want to get a 10-day. I want to put on an NBA jersey. I want to run up. I want to get an NBA bucket. All of us being on that team, it was a fun, even though we weren't winning, it still was a fun journey. But going from that to, okay, now I think he signed Malik Beasley Michael, what's his name? Mike Beasley from Kansas State
Instant left,
was
yeah, lefty.
one of their lottery picks. I'd already knew I probably wasn't going to be, they weren't going to be signing me back because each year I think I had an option, and one year was a team option, the other year was a player option. So the third year I decided, like, why would I not stay here? So I went to Italy. First practice, I had a bone bruise in my foot. Felt like I rolled my ankle, but it was a bone bruise. I still was practicing, still was trying to run. I was just limping and playing in preseason games. And I'm telling my agent, I'm like, hey, something's not right. There's no swelling. I think it might be something worse. It's not getting better. And the team was just like, hey, there's no swelling. You're fine. It'll get better. Just push through. And I'm just like, and it's like you're at their mercy. I was there for a month and a half, came back, couldn't do anything for 3 months, rehab. And I don't know if I mentioned last time, that's when I was trying to figure out what I could do that wasn't too crazy to try to get back in shape. And I did P90X along with a little bit of extra stuff on the side with players and guys in Memphis. And when I travel, I would go back to Miami quite often that summer. And I would do it in a hotel. I would do it in a go to 24-hour fitness or something, but I made sure I did my workouts regardless of how much I party, what I had going on wherever I went. And I ended up losing. I ended up losing like 30 some pounds. I got in shape. And then I want to say I went to Portland. I went to Portland for training camp. So that was good to get back into that. Okay, let's see where I'm at now. And then I end up going to Puerto Rico. I went back to the Philippines. I went to Taiwan, which was a great experience. Went to Taiwan, and like Taiwan is similar to the Philippines, is where you're asked to do a lot. I was, I think I might have been the leading scorer, leading rebounder, leading 3-point shooter, leading in a lot of statistical categories over there. So I made that my home. I was there for 3, 4 months. Learned how to get around the city at the metro, with the train station. I actually live in a building that was I could catch the train right underneath my building, getting along with my teammates. So did the Philippines for a year, went back to I don't know if it was the Suns, so many teams. And then I went to Lebanon for a month. I went to go take someone's place, and then he ended up coming back quicker than people thought. Got to stay there, and I lived right on the sea, and got to eat some of the food, got to learn some of the culture. Went back to the States, and then I want to say I went to Golden State for a month. I think Steph was hurt, so I didn't really get to play with him, but got to play with Clay, Monte Ellis from Mississippi, David Lee. Uh, there were a bunch of guys there, so
Mm-hmm.
that was a good experience to see a team that was struggling, but to see like real fans. And I can say Golden State, the Knicks, of course. I played in New York. Actually signed a 10-day. I forgot about the Iowa Energy. I think that's where I went after I did the P90X. So I went to Italy, got hurt, and I went to the Iowa Energy. And they were coached by Nick Nurse, who's the current coach of the Sixers. And Nate Bjorken was the assistant coach, and he's the assistant coach with the Sixers, who was the head coach for the Pacers a couple years ago. But they had a lot of faith in me. They let me, basically play my game. They would draw up post ups for me, and they would also draw up 3-point plays for me, which was I had never had a coach have confidence in the fact that, hey, you can shoot. We're not going to drop the plays for you. If you're open, you can shoot. But they were actually the draw up plays. So they spread the wealth around. I did that for a full year. Got a 10-day to the Knicks for the playoffs. So I got to play with Melo,
Okay.
Rasheed Wallace, Marcus Camby, Jason Kidd, J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert, Pablo Pricioni. We had a really it was a mixture of veterans, all stars, older guys, younger guys. It was just a cool opportunity to be in the mecca of basketball with those guys in the playoffs. I think we played against the Celtics. You're on a 10-day, but you're playing against the Celtics in the first round. So we had 2 games in Boston. We went back to New York, had a couple games, and I think we ended up going back to Boston, and they finished us off. But yeah, I did a lot of bouncing around for quite a while. So when people I see people and they say, "Where'd you play?" It's hard to answer. I played everywhere, like
Everywhere.
everywhere. It's like I
Everywhere.
still can't answer that question.
Like literally everywhere.
Literally
Everywhere.
everywhere.
I mean,
And people
passport
are like, "Hey,
is stamped.
damn, I went
All
through two
pages taken.
passports. I went through two passports. That was you get to travel. Even for me, I enjoyed stops in different countries, Barcelona or parts of France when I had connecting flights, or being flying to the Philippines, or in country travel. So when we had games like neutral site games, we would travel to a small city. We would have to catch a ferry. We would have to catch a bus, and it was just like I got to see different sites and hear different stories that were like, wow. I heard some crazy stories when it comes to overseas life and sometimes being in the middle of nowhere.
Wow. So since you've been all over, it seems that you should, I would think that you would have a wide variety of foods that you like. So what are you pretty generic or did you actually
Pretty
try different
generic.
foods? Oh, you still only
I,
eat
I'm
chicken
I'm a
tenders and
pretty picky
French fries.
I'm a pretty picky person. So I would say I got out of my own self way after college. Once I started going overseas and stuff, I would try. I started to try things before I wouldn't even try. Like I didn't even eat cheesecake till like my senior year in college. I was like, ugh, like what is this?
Oh my.
So I was basically basic. I keep it simple. Going overseas, they eat a lot of, especially in like Taiwan and Japan, they would eat a lot of course, sushi. They would eat a lot of octopus, squids, every kind of fish out the sea. They would eat it. And a lot of times the stuff was raw. And so some of the stuff I was just like, I couldn't even try. I was like, give
I
me
want
some
to try that.
rice. You guys have some chicken. And then I started to like soups. I think turkey was the first time they served salad, soup, the entree, and then a really small dessert, basically with every meal. So I started to like enjoy soup. So I would have my soup, ask them, can I have another? Or I'd have some of my teammates' soup. Simple salad with like lemon juice and olive oil, a little bit of pepper, just real simple. Started to like that. When I went to Italy, was always a pepperoni pizza guy or meat lovers. And when you got good mozzarella, you got good sauce, and you got good dough, they have a reckon with what they call margarita pizza, which is a cheese pizza here, but it was amazing. I was just could eat that every day, homemade pasta. And then in Lebanon, I think we had all the kebabs were pretty good with what is the chickpea? What is the I can't think of it now. So the hummus.
I'm
So
gonna
they
think about
have a
you.
lot
Yeah.
of hummus
Okay.
in with the pita bread. So I fell in love with that. So the Lebanon was pretty cool because a lot of times everywhere you went, they had hookah, and so I got into hookah at the time. And
Really? Is that
yeah,
like early 2000s like that? I really. Because
no, this
now it's like pretty
was
prevalent here, but it just
mid,
happened. Say what?
I would say late 2000s when I went to the
Okay.
maybe early 2010 or something like that. But
Okay.
you could get hookah at any restaurant. You can get hookah anywhere, morning, day, night,
Okay.
and it was good. It was cool to just sit out, have a beer, and eat,
All right.
smoke hookah with a couple of the guys. But yeah, man, it was a great experience to travel. I think it humbled me more to be able to experience such a wide variety of basketball from the top, like I said, 5-star hotels, room service, bus, first class, whatever you want, good food, to how I started off in Huntsville, riding a bus 14, 18 hours, bus breakdown, side of the road, sharing a room with somebody at the Holiday Inn or whatever it was, eating Denny's and looking forward to eating Denny's and Applebee's and uh, Cracker Barrel, eating fast food on the regular, McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, Arby's, you name it. We ate it when we were in the D League because really didn't have the time, really didn't have the money. So it was, hey, we're just gonna get some on the fly. So I can remember looking back, like we used to be excited, like after practice, hey, we're going to we're going to Burger King. Who running? Who going to get the Burger King order? What y'all want? And then we would just sit around the apartment and just chill and fellowship and eat and just have a good time. I think that's made me who I am to where I appreciate every little thing about the game from top to bottom. But like I said, I've played games where we had one ref. I had played games where the refs were clearly cheating, which is obvious, where refs wouldn't call fouls. I played games in non-air conditioned gyms to where you super hot, super humid, to where everybody's just water on the floor. It's just like playing on an ice skate rink. So it's humbled me to where I got to see all parts of the game from all different countries, all different aspects. I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't change it for the world.
That's awesome. That's awesome. A sense of gratitude. That's really,
Absolutely.
it's
Absolutely.
really important to be grateful.
Hmm.
So fast forward all the way from the planned days to current day. So what are you doing now? What are you up to now?
Right now, I am a financial rep at Northwestern Mutual. Northwestern Mutual is pretty much known as a insurance company, been around for over 150 years, but they several years ago they started into what they call holistic planning, so making sure that not only do you have insurance in place, but making sure that whatever your goals are, whatever you're trying to do, we basically set up a plan based on your goals to where, okay, if you want to retire at 55, this is what retiring at 55 looks like, and this is what you need to do starting today to make that happen. If you want to make sure your child is put some things away for your child, whether it's education or you name it, we help people put those things in place. With you, if you're off track for retirement, we help people play the catch up game to where they can retire on time, even though they didn't start at 21 or max out their Roths or their 401ks or do the things like that, making sure that you have the proper insurance. This was something that I thought about when I got into business at Memphis. Called myself wanting to start my own business. I think I said I was going to open a rim shop, and I was just like, 18, 19. So once I got done, when I got done playing, I was like, that's not going to happen. But this is something to where I'm affiliated with Northwestern, but I'm really my own business. So basically just got the okay to take my SIE. So it's one of the financial exams that I have to take before I can be an advisor. Yeah, I've learned so much. And like I mentioned to you, this is something that I feel like a lot of people should have in place. Like everyone should have a plan. It's one thing to have an advisor, but it's another thing to have a plan. It's just like having, oh, I got a trainer, but okay, you need more than just a trainer to be successful in the game. I think Kobe is one of the people that's okay. He's LeBron. They spend $1 million a year on their body. You take the Olympic swimmers; they spend thousands and thousands up to a lot of their money on nutritionists, having a schedule, keep doing yoga, doing meditation. Like it's okay. Some guys like, oh, I got a trainer. It's okay. You still need a little more than a trainer. So that's what I'm doing now outside of being a dad, taking care of my boys. I'm trying to basically network and meet people in the city of St. Louis. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now.
Okay, awesome. So maybe one day you can connect with an NBA or a
That's my
professional
plan.
league in
That's one of my
financial advising.
that's
Advisement.
one of my end games, especially at 21. I could rewind back to when I was 21. I would have um, probably started put some insurance in place because you're not going to play forever. And at 21, I'm still healthy, but at 21, I'm way healthier then than I am now.
Absolutely.
Insurance would have been way cheaper then than it
Way
is
cheaper.
now. Had I been playing and been able to understand things, I would have started a whole life policy at 21, making good money. Starting off, I wasn't making good money, but I still would have been able to pay whatever it was
Right.
a month. And then when I got into the NBA, okay, now I want to pay more. So I want to up my 100,000 a hole to 200,000 a hole. I don't need that much time anymore. I don't have kids. And then having something outside of the NBA stuff for a rock. Okay, if I'm making 250, $300,000 a year, hey, why not put a chunk of that into my retirement as opposed to uh, investments or going to Vegas or
Right.
driving somewhere and partying. So it's just you
Absolutely.
look at things different. I did some good things as a young player thanks to my family and my circle, but just looking back, if I could get a bunch of young men that were coming out of college and start their professional careers, I would say, hey, you're not going to play forever. You're going to have a family one day. You're going to have kids. Even if you don't, certain things you need to put in place sooner than later.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it. And hopefully one day I'll be able to, not hopefully, one day I will run a practice to where most of that will be um, helping the young kids with these NILs.
Oh yeah,
Because
absolutely.
if they see me, if they see my face and they hear my story, I think I can I have a little more leverage to where the parents can listen, the players will listen. And say, look, I did well for myself. Now I'm trying to uh, give back and share, and don't want you to make some of the mistakes that I personally witnessed, whether it's big or small, uh, because I've seen advisors screw guys over.
All over.
You know,
Absolutely.
one of the main ones was Tim Duncan. How do you rob Tim Duncan? Out of all the players in the NBA, how do you cheat over one of the nicest, you know, best players in the league? So it
Right.
just shows you that a lot of people are money hungry as opposed to doing their due diligence in serving others to help others to guide them the right way. And that's how I look at it as giving back. If I can't give back on the court, I can give back in some other way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I look forward to hearing that story and how things happen
Absolutely.
and come to fruition because I truly believe there is definitely a lot of opportunity in that area, especially with African American culture for sure,
Absolutely.
to help us with financial literacy and breaking generational gaps and breaking generational
Yes. And
curses.
that's how
Yeah. So
one of my
hey, I really appreciate it, Earl, joining
I
in the
appreciate you.
Mental Pulse podcast. Definitely been a blessing.
Absolutely.
Definitely been a time that we've had. And so we appreciate you and
Absolutely.
we'll be talking soon. All
All
right.
right. You have a good one. Thank you, Tanisha.